Hi. Anyway, so today I thought I'd do a little something different. I usually do computer stuff, or maybe I play around with my drone, or I don't know what else is on my channel, but a bunch of stuff from a long time ago. Anyway, today what I thought I would do is, because I have to change out my brake pads on my car, I decided, hey, why don't I just make a video, because a lot of people, they're afraid to do stuff on their own cars because they're, it's their cars. You don't know what you're doing. But brake pads are really one of the easier things that I've ever done. And I really have to give it to my friend Ryan Pugh. He was the one who kind of walked me through how to do this and explained to me that it's not that hard to do. And it really isn't that hard to do. Very first thing you're gonna need is new brake pads. Okay, they're not that expensive. These were like 25 bucks. So not bad at all, especially when you consider, even if you go to one of the shittiest places that you can find, it's gonna be 100 bucks for them to change out your pads. You are also going to need to take off your wheel. You're gonna need your breaker bar. Now, a lot of times your car will have one of these, and you'll also have a jack that goes along with it. You're gonna need a wheel key if you have key locks on your what is that, wheel whatevers. And then you're gonna need a jack. I have two of these guys, and I'm gonna explain to you a little bit later why I have two of them and why I use two of them. You might have one of the scissor jacks that come with your car. It's a good idea to put your car on something very level, because I've ruined a scissor jack like that before. What you're also gonna want to do is, I'm doing Honda brakes. Now, Honda basically is every Honda. I actually have an Acura, but it's basically Honda. And Honda uses two sizes of things, 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter. That's basically, if you got these two wrenches, you're good to go. So I've got those two wrenches. I've also got the sockets, just in case I need the sockets for some reason. It's a good idea to bring all your stuff all together in one place and have it all ready to go. Anyway, so here's the car. I've already got it kind of, what's going on here? I've already kind of got it so that the wheel's turned a little bit, because right here is where the brake caliper is, and it's gonna just be a little bit easier to get to. I've also got a chair here because it's just easier. Oh, and then one final thing you might want to use to make things a little easier is a light. And you could be a flashlight, it could be, I just use these for photography and stuff like that, so I just have them. It's gonna make things a lot easier to find things and to look around, especially if you're not familiar with what's going on in there. It's just gonna be super easy. All right, so let's get started. And first thing we need to do is jack up the car, take the wheel off. So we'll do that. All right, if you've never put your car up on a jack before, there's a couple things that you need to make sure that you've done. Number one, you wanna make sure, absolutely sure, that the car is not going to roll away from you. So either put the parking brake on, put it in gear if you have a manual, or both, doesn't matter. Just be sure that that parking brake is on, and yeah, so let's get started. All right. It's probably not the best thing in the world to jack it up with this not in the right place, but unfortunately, sometimes you have to do what you got to do. All right. And we can just use that extension. All right, here's something that's kind of important. What you want to do before you've jacked it up off of the entire floor is you just want to crack these lug nuts. So, why do we want to do that? Well, for one, the car is still sitting on the ground. So if you're gonna be like really jacking these hard, it's a good idea to do it while the car is still on the ground, so that it's not wiggling around on the jack. Okay. And then this is my key lock. So you put that in there, and it comes off just as easily. All right, so all these are probably loose now. Good, okay. Put that this side, and then we'll keep jacking it up. Whoops. And that is an excellent reason. Wow, that was completely unexpected. That's damage, yeah. This is bad. This is a bad day. I'm glad that happened though. In a way I'm glad it happened. Because you can see the dangers of not doing things right. So let me get this going under here so that I can get, whoops. I think what happened was I didn't have this in the right spot. So let me get this up enough to get that out of here. Oh yeah, I messed that up really good. So it's kind of cool that that happened, because this is going to make somebody's, it's going to make somebody's fail video. I'm absolutely sure of it. You know, me talking like I know what I'm doing, and then I go and kind of screw up my whole car. I mean, it's not completely screwed up, but it's not pretty under there. Anyway. So there's a flat part under here where you're supposed to put the jack, and that's where I put it. Didn't seem to work though. So here's that flat part. Oh, I didn't have it in far enough. That's what the problem was. There's where it goes. All right, I thought the tire was moving, but it wasn't. All right. So now we've got the tire off the ground. It can turn if we wanted to. And here's the reason why we use two. Remember that thing that happened about 5 minutes ago when the thing crashed down? Well, that's the really last thing you want to have happen. So that's why I use a second jack. And I usually put the second jack right next to the first jack, so that in the event that something horrible happens, it doesn't come crashing down on my head. It's kind of a backup jack. Now I'm all nervous because something like that's never happened before. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right. So we're going to take the wheel off, and we can almost finger do that now because that's why you loosened up the lug nuts. All right, and I'm just going to set those right here. And I'm going to pull the wheel off, and then I'm going to move the camera so that you can see a little bit better what's going on. So this is all pretty easy. We have kind of 3 or 4 bolts we need to worry about. Let me see what I'm pointing at. I can't see. All right, there's a guy back here. I think that's a 10 millimeter. There's a 10 millimeter right here. And so let's take this off right here. I'll do that with my 10 millimeters here. No, actually it's 12. All right. $12 millimeter. Whoop. Okay. We might need, see this line right here? This is the hydraulic line, and that's what squeezes these things together so that this squeezes, it squeezes these things together so that this is the pad, it connects to the rotor, and that's what actually slows your car down. There's a bolt right here, and what this is doing is that's holding this little piece right here so that if I were to actually get that off, I need to undo that. So it's really easy. I believe it's a 12. Yep. So let's just undo that. It's really simple. And let's see. And we'll just pull that. Good. Now, once this comes off, we can lay that somewhere so that we have some wiggle room right there. Don't lose that. That's going to be important. All right, so let's come back here and see if we can't figure out a way to hold on to this nut right here, because that's what we have to get off. This whole assembly has to come off, but to do that we kind of need to... Oh, there was a part that I didn't explain that we needed, and it's a C-clamp, and I'm gonna go get that and show it to you really quickly. All right, so this is kind of the most important piece you're gonna need. It's a C-clamp, and it's a good idea to get a big one like this, because once you remove the piston, and the piston is what kind of pushes this thing together, the hydraulic has it already pushed out. You need to push it back in, otherwise you're not going to be able to put the piece back on there. Okay, so I went and found a 14 millimeter, a 15 millimeter, and a vice grips. Vice grips is kind of last, yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to use the vice grips because I don't have a wrench large enough to hold this nut right here while turning this one, because these are the two that need to come out to remove this thing from the assembly. All right, so we're gonna figure out a way to clamp that down like that. Nope, a little stronger, I think. Nope. All right, here we go. Nope, come on. Vice grips are not the best thing in the world to use because you run a really good risk of stripping pieces out. All right, so now I've got that done. I can, there we go. That's cracked. And one thing is, if you have never done this before, it might be really, really difficult at first. I have changed these brake pads a couple of times, and because of that, it's not as difficult as it would be if I was doing this for the first time. And that's because you know, the factory tightens everything down to whatever specs that they tighten things down to, and by the time that you get to them, you can't necessarily tighten things down as much. There we go. All right. So my first time doing this took the longest, and all the other times, not so much. All right, so we need to remove these two bolts. One and two. Well, maybe two. Maybe two. There. Come on. Now, you definitely will get dirty doing this. There's no way around it because brake pads basically fall apart. There we go. See, that whole thing comes off just that easy. Completely off. All right, and let's see. We can just put that kind of to the side just to make sure it doesn't fall off. Now here are the actual brake pads. And let me pull them out of here for you to see. They're not terribly worn. which concerns me because I don't know why they would have been so squeaky, and that's the main reason I'm changing these, is because they were making the most horrific squealing noise. Anyway, so that's that. So I'll put these down for just one quick second, and we're going to take a look at the new ones. Here are the new ones. You can already see how filthy dirty I am. I mean, this is typical. All right, so you're going to have one with the little guy on there. Ta-da, ta-da. And then one without. Just like that. Now, if you've never done that before, you might want to pay attention to which side went on which side, because I didn't really, but there's really only one way it can work. All right, now some brake pads, depending on how much you spend on them, I didn't spend that much. Here you can tell. You can tell this is all pretty much used up. Look how flat that is, and then look how much material is here. So that's an interesting reason why you're going to need the C-clamp, is because when you took these out, the piston was down a certain way, a certain amount, and that's the whole width of it. And when you put them back in, you're putting them in thicker than they were, so that's why that's not going to work. Now, some brake pads come with these guys, and these are all, I don't know, they're just basically shims to hold these pieces in. And you can just continue to use the same ones if you want to. You don't have to, but anyway. All right, so they just go back in there the same way they came out. Obviously, I put this one in upside down because I'm super smart like that. All right, just like that. At least I think so. Now, here's another interesting thing. This is brake lubricant. It's a good idea to pick one of these up if you're going to be changing your brakes. And you just want to put it on the brake pad. It's supposed to help stop squeaking and squealing and stuff like that. And that might be the reason why these were squealing. But I really only remember them starting squeaking about a couple of months ago. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. When I put this back on, because I am a dummy, I didn't really pay attention that, yeah, see, there's no way that's going to go back on because I need to push this in. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is by putting this C-clamp on here and just screwing that way down. Anyway, so I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But first we're going to, well, we can do that right now. So let me back up the camera just a little bit here. All right. So here's our piston. And what we have to do is we have to find a pretty good place to put that guy right there. And then we're going to have to run this all the way in. And I guess you want to be kind of careful where you're going to put the other side of your C-clamp. Because the last thing you want to do is really mess too much with the workings of your brakes. I think that's why a lot of people are afraid to do this, is because, you know, it's your brakes. You need them to stop your car. Anyway, so let's see if I can zoom in here and show you what's going on. Maybe you'll be able to see as I turn this. Can you see it going in? You do have to give it a good amount of muscle because you're fighting liquid. And liquid doesn't want to compress. That's why it makes a really good, that's why hydraulics work so well. All right, so that's pushed about as far in as it's gonna go. So let's pull that back out again. Ta-da. All right. So now, let's see if it'll fit. Fits right back on there, perfect as perfect can be. All right, because we made enough room now. Okay, so put that back up here. Just let it sort of sit. Let's go ahead and grease up the pads. And tear here. What does that mean, tear here? I don't know. Oh, tear here, yeah. Well, obviously tear here doesn't want to tear here. So, well, no, it does. Okay, here we go. Good. All right. So, let's go ahead and lube. Put a little lube on there. Because I make noises like a 7-year-old boy. And I'm funny. All right, and as I understand it, you don't have to get fancy with that. You just have to get it on there. And that's gonna go back in the way it came out, like that. Yeah, another word about these. These are made with the little notches and stuff. Oh, come on. It's not going to focus on that. It should focus on that. Anyway, it's got little notches, and those little notches go in the little aluminum guides right there. It's so very, it's almost impossible to mess that up. I can get you a, let me get you a close-up of that because it's important. You kind of want to see this. All right, see that guy right there? So this really does just line up real perfect, just like that. It's almost like putting a puzzle piece in. No problem at all. You can't mess it up. That's the bottom down there. Anyway, all right, so let me put that back up there. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get a little goo on this guy here. Get the goo on there. Now, I'm only doing one break, and here's why. Because about, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months ago, I screwed up my other brake so bad. Whoops, that's too bright. I screwed up my other brake so bad that I screwed up the rotor. So I had to buy a new rotor and a new brake pad. Well, when I did it, I meant to get back to do, I meant to change out both pads. I meant to. I forgot, I guess. Maybe I was too happy that I finally got the other, I got the other rotor on all nice, and I just decided, woohoo, I'm done. And then when I was cleaning out the garage, I threw out the other brake pad. So that was awesome. Not really, but awesome. All right, so the screws, the bolts go right back in where they were. I would like to give a personal shout out to my parents who bought me this very beautiful Cobalt ratchet set. Extremely happy about it. And it just, everything works so good. And that's, again, the wrong way. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. I'm gonna give this a little twist, like that. And give this a little twist. Just a little bit of a, good. All right, that's on there good. And we're gonna not forget to put the bolt back into the piece that holds the hydraulic line in place, because that's not something you want flopping around. And I already did that wrong because I did not do that wrong. That's exactly how it goes. I hope you can actually see what's going on back there, because that would be really cool. Okay. There, that's done. And we have pretty much fixed the brakes. I mean, replaced the brakes now. That's about it. There's nothing else left to do. I'm going to put the wheel back on. Sometimes the wheel does not enjoy going back on, but I did it. Okay. All right, put the lug nuts back on. Newer cars, there's no way to put the lug nuts on wrong. But older cars, you may want to be careful of how you pay attention to how you took them off, because some of them are just sort of like bolt throughs and you can put them on the wrong way. All right. And we're just going to finger tight these. And we're also going to take this, and I am not going to crank down on these, by the way. I'm just turning them until I feel just the slightest bit of resistance. And the reason why I do that is because the same reason why we didn't crank them while the car was, before the car was up in the air. Because you don't want to give the car much of a reason to fall off that jack like it did before. I can't wait to see that later. Definitely going to post that, show people how dumb I am. Okay, now we're ready to drop the car. There. Or I just need to buy a jack that works with my car. That's what I probably could do. All right, so the last thing you want to do is tighten your lug nuts. Whoops. That seems like it should have been a lot tighter before I dropped the car, but that's the way that works. Most of the time you want to use a pattern when you do this. You want to go across. You don't want to go in a circle. You want to go across. I don't know why that is, but that's what I've always been told, and it's never done me wrong. So, all right. So our wheel is back on. The very last thing we want to do is get in the car and squish that brake, because what that's going to do is that's going to replace the position of the piston. You can't see nothing, but I don't know if you could hear that, but it went from squish, squish, to now it's like very hard to push. So that tells me that the piston is now in a good position. And let's put this back here. Let's raise this back up. And let's see what an absolute complete mess I am. All right, look at that. Ooh, very bright. Okay, so whew. All right, turns out I didn't end up using my little flashlight thing. I didn't need to because I could see everything really well. I only almost killed myself once, and I only damaged a little bit of my car. But you know what? It's a 13-year-old car. I've damaged it plenty, but it still loves me. I still love it. I'm going to keep it forever. And if I keep doing my own brake jobs, if I keep putting oil into it and changing it like I'm supposed to. Now, I don't do that. I let somebody else do it. And as long as I keep it, you know, garaged, I think this car should last forever. We'll see. Anyway, so hope you learned something today. Hope you learned not to be stupid with a jack. I hope you learned that doing your own brakes can be super easy and super fast. I think I did that in less than a half hour. So, and that was me talking my way through it and making sure I hit all the steps correctly and all that. So anyway, so until another time I put out a video, see you later.